Hello and welcome to a new podcast called Everyone's a Critic. The purpose of this podcast is to take two individuals with a differing opinion on the same movie and not have them argue, not have them debate, because, well, maybe a little debate, but nothing too nasty, nothing too toxic. But instead, just have a as civilized as possible conversation on the same movie and why it worked for them. It worked for one person, but it didn't work for another. Here, either I will be talking about a movie I didn't like, but the other person liked. I liked, or a movie I liked, but the other person didn't like, or maybe even moderate a discussion between two people who have different opinions on the same movie. Joining me, and for the month of February, I will be doing two episodes of this podcast and then probably alternate between this and VHS era. Really depends on what my schedule's like. Joining me today is Mark Levy of the Blockbuster Guy. Thank you for coming on, Mark.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about this movie that I truly think is in the top 10 of the year for me.
And unfortunately, I think is in the bottom five for me, but I'll get to why. I'll get to why.
It's what we're
Um,
here for.
Yeah, but can you tell us a bit more about the Blockbuster Guy and just about yourself in general?
Yeah, so I worked at Blockbuster in college. The whole time I was at my first college in a small, crappy town in Florida called Palatka. And it's really bad. I'm not like overselling or underselling the city. It's a terrible place. But the thing to do in that town is go Blockbuster. And I was known all over town as Blockbuster Guy. And I wrote a play that has been performed internationally now called Blockbuster Guy about my lifelong love of movies and working at Blockbuster for 3 years during the height of its popularity.
Okay. Now, besides Blockbuster Guy, is there anything else that you do for a living or that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I actually do TikTok movie reviews, which TikTok, as you know, stopped being a thing for about 12 hours this past month.
Well, actually, it's back up.
It's back up. Yeah. I actually have to do a review today because I just saw a movie I have to review. But yeah, I do TikTok movie reviews under MovieMark. No weird spelling. Also Instagram as MovieMark reviews and YouTube MovieMark reviews, which those are newer. So the content's not going to be the most newest on there yet or plentiful. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I do. I mean, I'm an actor. Yeah.
Right. All right. So today, yeah, as we mentioned before, and as you probably know because you clicked on the video, so I'm sure you would have seen the title. We are talking about Anora, which is which is a front runner for the Oscars for many people. And and honestly, I will have to preface this by saying, like, if you think I'm just someone who doesn't get it, um, I actually have really loved or enjoyed Sean Baker's previous work, and I'm also more of an indie movie guy than a mainstream movie guy. Most of the movies in my top 10 are independent films. But just going back to that, loved Red Rocket, loved the Florida Project, remember liking Tangerine, but it has been a while, and I don't remember much about it other than the main three things, which is, that it was shot on an iPhone, it has a trans protagonist, and it's set during the holidays. I'll even go to bat for Greg the Bunny. Being
I was waiting for that to get brought up, Greg, the money.
Yeah, actually, I was surprised that that was created by him.
Yeah,
Like,
considering like I feel like he thrives in underbelly or under seeming underbelly type stuff to tell his stories, and Greg the Bunny is not quite that.
yeah, yeah, that's the thing. It's more of a sitcom about Hollywood and
Yeah.
about these celebrities and about these, like these people, in the entertainment industry. Like you wouldn't look at it and think that the creator of this would go on to making movies about people, like you said, who are in the underbelly of the world, kind of on the outskirts of society, trying to make how do I say this? Make ends meet, get through life. Like you wouldn't really, I think, watch Greg the Bunny and think that's sort of where his career would have gone in.
I mean,
Uh,
when you think about it, because before Tangerine, he had Starlet, which is all about a porn star. So that's even, and also in the underbelly, that's even closer to Greg the Bunny time frame wise than Tangerine.
yeah. No, I will say Starlet is again on my to watch list. That is unfortunately one of the films that of his that I have not gone around to yet. Um, but I will also say that, before we jump into Anora, why Greg the Bunny might seem conventional compared to his later works is I have heard that he did feel like there was a lot of executive meddling going on with Greg the Bunny, and he wasn't wholly happy with the final product. Um, which might be why it feels like such a departure. Um, And might also be why he moved into doing indie work because, he had this fling with working with the mainstream. And well, it didn't really work out for him creatively. It also didn't work out financially because, even though that show has like a cult following somewhat, it was quickly canceled. So there's that.
I, my brain like always goes to like the fact that like he helped make like Greg the Bunny, you know, and now his movies he's been playing a lot more with comedy. Like
Yeah.
you can't call Tangerine a comedy, you cannot call Florida Project a funny like at all. And like Red Rocket does play with humor a lot, and Nora is arguably I would qualify it as a comedy because the second half of the film.
Yes, and I will say that before I get into my problems with the film. That's actually one of the strengths I had. That's one of Anora's strengths is there are a lot of funny interactions. In fact, I really enjoyed the first, I'd say 10 minutes, 10
Okay.
like five first like 5-10 minutes when we're just seeing Anora and the other strippers working at the strip club, and like you see them like doing their job, like pandering to these horn dogs, and then like you're cutting to them and they're like, oh my God, look at these idiots, look at these weirdos, these perverts, these like gross guys. Like I like very that was actually a very funny, scene to start off with. Uh the school the and I will say, and it leads to another strength. That scene in particular of the movie is that the music that went with the scene, as well as as well as the color palette, did really help kick off the mood. So I was actually enjoying, I'd say, the first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie.
Okay.
Uh
So you're making without like
Yeah.
you make me feel like that your biggest issue with the movie might actually just be Vanya.
Well, not exactly.
Okay, but
Um,
can I talk about the first 15 minutes? Because I actually think like
yeah.
what he did in this beginning of the movie, and I rewatched the movie
Hmm.
since I was asked to do this, and it kind of reminds me sort of like The Player, how it's like very zippy camera moving, very fluid, like with music happening, and you get little snippets of things here and there. I thought it was a really good way to set up the scene for the actual film and the stakes that we were going to be in and the world that we were going to be in. Because there's always like that. This movie is full of danger, whether it's present or implied. And a strip club danger is a very real thing. Like, I mean, they deal with so much between like crazy guys and alcohol to like other people who work there, etc. And it's fascinating to see like the danger that Sean Baker was able to uh, give you even from the top of the film.
I will say that to go back to, the comedy, the editing, the cinematography, like you said, like the editing do a good job of setting up sort of the danger, the stakes, the world we live in, like the world of the movie. And again, like this movie is like set in New York, like or it's like set in the city, set in
It's
Las
actually set like
Vegas.
Green Park, like down like South Brooklyn.
I know. I didn't mean
Yeah.
New York City.
Oh,
I meant like New York's like New York
yeah.
State, like Brooklyn. And like again, I will say with the cinematography, like there's a lot of good location filming in this, location cinematography. Like I mentioned before, like the colors really pop during the street scenes set at the strip club as well as Las Vegas, but there's more sort of moody, it's sort of more moody and muted as soon like when you're in Brooklyn where you're just seeing like the exterior shots. And I
Hmm.
did really appreciate, again, the the tech credits. And again, when it comes to the comedy, as I said before, actually, there are some, there are actually some, because you said like maybe my problem with the movie is Vanya. Actually, what I did kind of enjoy on rewatch is like, and actually did find kind of humorous is how obvious it is that he does not give a shit about Anora, and how obvious it is like he is just like using her and is just like more interested in playing video games and like if he is
Yeah.
interested in Anora, it's just to have sex with her. Honestly, and in fact, my problem with the movie is more that actually, Vanya, despite being the how do you pronounce that? Deuteragonist,
Okay.
he seems like a more well-drawn character than Honora is, the titular
Oh.
character herself. Because if you think about it, like he has a clear goal in mind. Like
Uh-huh.
he's trying to use this girl so he can get a green card, so he can get out of having to grow up and be responsible. Um, but Honora, like, sure, we know she's like this sassy, foul-mouthed, smart-mouthed girl. She kind of has a love-hate relationship with her roommate, her coworkers,
Hmm.
her boss. Like, we know that about her, but it doesn't feel like we really know that much else, despite the fact that the movie is told from her point of view.
I mean, I do agree with what you're saying there because like it's that weird thing of like it's kind of it is a Cinderella story, 1,000%. It's a Cinderella story. Like that has it's a Cinderella story up to a certain point. But I feel like what we get from her from like in that first like 40 minutes of like the honeymoon phase, like the thing of the movie, before anything bad really, really happens, it's just like glimmering in the background that something bad might be happening. Um, I like that we get her full personality. We see who she's friends with. We see who she's not friends with. And when things like interact later in the film, it kind of adds layers to that. It sort of reminds me of like Uncut Gems, sort of like how like you know snippets of things in the beginning and they come back later. And yes, of course, yeah, I do think Adam Sandler's character in Uncut Gems is probably a little more fleshed out than Nora. But in my mind, it's Cinderella versus a horrible machine. Like everything she's up against in the movie is a horrible, horrible machine. Like the second half of the movie is literally just pure terror, but with like so much comedy built in that like when anything terrible could happen, something normally very hilarious happens instead. Like so you're like gripping your seat while laughing. It's a very fascinating thing that I think Sean Baker was able to do with this with that for me. And I like it's like there's movies that like man, the character has to be well drawn. The Last Showgirls are those movies where I don't think there's much called plot. The plot's the show's closing, and the whole movie is just Cam Anderson being very charming. So like I think Anora, where it's a lot more complicated plot, where it's a person that's not really used to this horrible machine, getting into the machine being spit out violently by the machine.
Hmm. I don't know. I guess the thing is, like you used The Last Showgirl as an example. I saw that more as like a character study of how Pamela Anderson's character, like, she's she was like lucky enough, right, to be like put into this situation where she basically had to, where she basically like was never or never really had to like build up her skills. Like she had
Mm-hmm.
dreams of being a dancer, um, but then like she got into this she got lucky to get this gig that was really more about her body, like more about selling her sexually than selling her dancing skills, despite being this dancing show. But then that show's closing, and like we kind of see like as the movie goes on, like she kind of realizes that she's pretty much wasted her life.
Mm-hmm.
And like now she kind of has lost like lost any time she could have built, building up the skills that she could have all those years ago. And like and now she's mediocre at something she thought she had been successful at. And I don't know. With Anora, it's like I get what you're saying, like she's spit up by the machine. Um, I guess my other problem, with Anora is like how long it takes her to really realize how long it really takes her to realize she's been spit up by the machine. Like again, she's obviously not a stupid person,
No, yeah.
like but like she's like but like Vanya like ditches her as soon as the Armenian guy and the Russian and the Russian
Uh,
investors.
Garnick and Igor, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean I know their names, but I'm just saying trying to think of what you could best call them. But like he ditches her. He she tries to call for help several times, then he tried to call her. He doesn't answer the phone ever. Um, then they look for her. Then she and the guys look for him. She finds out he's at the strip club they met at, and like you can see in her eyes at times what her questioning whether or not Vanya's loyal to her.
Mm-hmm.
But it literally takes until him saying agreeing to the divorce in her face and telling her that for her to realize that I feel like from the character that was established beforehand, she would have figured that out sooner than she did. Like I could maybe see her saying, "Hey, this is fucked up that you're having him do this when he's intoxicated," but she still believes he's in love with her until he literally says he wants to divorce himself. And that I didn't find quite believable coming from her from what we knew of her beforehand.
I get that. I mean, but you also have to remember, like, love goggles is a real thing. Like the movie starts off with her like not really in love with him and like realizing that like they develop a natural relationship. And then like all that stuff happens, and like the thugs come and horrors happen, and he runs away, and she's like basically kidnapped to try and find him. And she's like, "Well, cool. I'm gonna find him and like see if we can keep this going." And I think that's when the love goggles come off because like love goggles are a very real. I mean, I've had love goggles for people many a time, and like when that thing happens, it's like it's a slap in the face, and it sometimes happens later than it should.
Yeah, I guess you got a good point there. I guess the only other thing is I do also think the relationship with Igor, it seems like the movie kind of sets him up as sort of like the quote unquote right guy in a way.
Until the
Yeah.
end.
I don't know. Like I get what they're going for. Like he actually is trying to be nice and like help her out, even though, like he assaults her earlier. But I guess the thing is like again, it does seem like it feels more like at best they form a friendship more than a romance. So like at the end when it's
Yeah,
well, so at the end when it's like when the movie seems to imply they're gonna try a romance, it feels a little out of nowhere to me.
it's weird because like in my mind, Igor sees her as a sex worker mainly. Like that's what like the way it is. Like in his mind, like sex worker first, then human being second. And like it like changes during the movie. It's one of the things I think Europe Saw is amazing at in the movie. Like
Oh
I'm
yeah.
so excited. He's probably getting an Oscar nomination. He's incredible in the role.
Yeah, I will say
Uh,
the actor's good. Like I'm just
yeah,
saying the
but
relationship.
like because like he's rated at first to be like the quiet muscle, right? Like he's the guy who doesn't speak really much, and he's just there to be the muscle. He's the henchman. He's the most henchman of the henchmen. And like their connections, like in the car, yeah, it does spark a little bit of friendship type vibe. But like the way he looks at her throughout the movie is very much like sex object, which I mean makes sense when we get to the end of the movie. But I don't know, like it did come too much out. I mean, it came a little out of left field, but it was like that thing of like, cool, something horrible happened to her. So this guy's been nicer for the like this guy's been nicer than he should have been. So that's why that happens, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the only other thing is sometimes I feel like some scenes I feel kind of went on a little too long. Like
That's
I
Sean Baker though. Like Sean Baker loves to write good. Like Sean Baker, in my mind is a wannabe play, right? Which is not a bad thing. Like he writes long scenes, and like the tension in those scenes sometimes is like that first like chunk with the thugs is like so strong. It's like what's gonna happen? Is someone going to get seriously hurt? Oh no, someone's hurt. Oh wait, it's not who you think it's going to be. That's good. And like, there's so much weird comedy involved in that. Like the tension of like the words, like give me the call, all that stuff. You know?
yeah, but I don't know. I guess I didn't really feel like the scene like in Red Rocket or the Florida Project. Again, my memory on Tangerine is a bit hazy, I'll have to admit. Like the scenes I felt like the scenes sort of ended like when they were supposed to and the point was made when it was supposed to, like even if the scenes were long. And
Mm-hmm.
some scenes like actually the montage of Anora and Vanya's honeymoon, and I gotta say the fight with the thugs felt like they could have been shortened by at least like 5 minutes. Like it was kind of like I felt like the point had been made.
What you're saying is actually the thing I actually agree with you about Sean Baker's work because I am a fan of everything I've seen of his. But I do feel like Red Rocket and Anora are definitely like 5 minutes too long. I will agree with you there. Like I feel like Red Rocket actually is close to like 15 minutes too long. I think Red Rocket's a great movie and much just so much fat in there that can go away. For me, I feel like Anora's fat is in that weird honeymoon phase. Because I think like everything once the thugs come in is like perfect, and I think the beginning is great. But I feel like the relationship building is a little bit too long for what the movie is.
Yes, and that's something that I was like especially that I have to agree with you there. Like it is sort of like he charms her with his friends, they fuck. He charms her with
Yeah.
his friends, they fuck. He charms her with his friends, they fuck for over and over, over again. And it's
There's
like
so much fucking in this movie.
I know.
And
I
you know
know
what?
it,
Applauding Mikey Madison and Mark Shine for the confidence in his performances because, like, holy crap. But you are right. There is a lot of fucking in this movie that could just be implied fucking.
yeah, the best way to describe like half this movie is they fuck. They fuck. They fucking fuck. Fuck, 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 fuck. The Vanya
And
and
then think, oh, fuck,
Lemony
oh, fuck, oh,
show.
fuck, oh, fuck.
Yeah, but I think that's pretty much but I will say even though now I've aired out my grievances with this film, some of you agreed with, some you didn't agree with, which I find respectful. I completely see like where you're coming from in regards to this film. Um, but now that what was it? This is like the Festivus of podcasts, I'd like to say. And that I see so many just toxic film discussions online or film debates, and I'm just like Frank Costanza, there's gotta be another way.
Yeah.
Than to just, fight fight or like get angry at filmmakers and actors who don't even know you exist.
Like one of the things I really love about Sean Baker is like the same thing. Like my favorite movie last year is Real Pain. I think the movie is like what I'm about to say is like one of the most well-written scripts out there. And like it feels like theater, but like it's too big of a story to have on stage because they travel a country. In Anora, they travel Brooklyn. And like it's like I feel like in Anora, it feels like if you saw it on Broadway, first act could be everything up until like basically the thugs come in, maybe a little bit of the thugs, and the second act like everything else, you know? And like that's the thing I like about Sean Baker is like he's not afraid to give his characters like really good monologues and such. Like, I remember like watching Florida Project, be like, wow, Willem Dafoe is just a decent human being in this movie who
Yes,
looks like
actually,
the scariest person ever.
yes, actually, you know what? I will say this. That's actually something just going past Anora, like just in general with Sean Baker, like he does kind of make his actors stand out in a way that you wouldn't necessarily think of. Like, Florida Project, not only is Willem Dafoe playing a decent human being, Willem Dafoe is playing a normal, regular Joe, and you don't tend to see that from him.
Yeah.
Simon Rex. So, before Red Rocket, I had no real opinion of Simon Rex other than, oh, he's that guy who was in some comedies who also used to do porn. Like,
And it was on TV.
yeah,
That's
I'm
yeah.
not that familiar with his MTV work. I'm more familiar with, the scary movies,
Yeah.
before Red Rocket. And the I I'm embarrassed to say this, but I did see the Karate Dog one time on TV, and he was in that.
Oh wow, I forgot about that. Like a great pride done. Is that a porno or is that a kids
No,
movie?
it's a kids movie where Chevy Chase voices dog who knows karate. It
Oh
was on
God, I'm
it
never
was
gonna
on
watch that.
it was on ABC Family once, and Simon Rex is like the human who's like, oh, karate dog.
But I mean, like that's like the type of role that some writers should always get cast in Hollywood, you know?
Yeah.
And like I'm really happy that that Sean Baker saw in him like the interesting actor that he is.
Yes.
Because like Red Rocket's incredible, mainly because I'm also the girl in the movie is also remembering her name all of a sudden. His girlfriend in the movie, not the wife, but the wife was great too. But regardless, like Sean Baker knows how to write dialogue for the actors to make them stand out.
Yeah, and yeah, I will also say, like, speaking of, Simon Rex in general, like, thanks to him, like, it has kind of boosted his career. He's been in Bupkis, Blink Twice.
Mhm.
And yeah, again, like, again, I will also say, just in general, like, even if I didn't love the script of Anora, and to me it held it back, the acting was still great, still fantastic. Like I said,
Yeah,
I may have thought Honora was too thinly drawn as a character, but that is not on Mikey Madison, who does great with what she's given.
she's in my top three female performances of last year. So
Yeah. I will also say, just to change things in general, I will say that you mentioned that, like, A Real Pain was like your top movie.
absolutely, yeah.
Definitely in my top 10. I will say that. So we do agree on that. Yeah,
Good.
A Real Pain is on Hulu right now, I believe. Go watch.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's 90 minutes and it's literally, you might think it's going to be a really sad movie. It is a movie about sadness, don't get me wrong, but it is a funny fucking movie if you're a fan of Jesse Eisenberg, if you're a fan of Kieran Culkin, he's going to win an Oscar, I hope. They're both incredible. Like, I'm a big fan of both of them. And I'm just so happy, like, as a Jewish person and as a fan of, like, just good acting, seeing that type of movie is just mind-blowingly beautiful, and it's 90 minutes.
yeah. Yeah, everyone, I wish I could go on and on about Real Pain. Unfortunately, unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you again, Mark, for coming on to the show.
Thanks,
Um,
Kevin. This was fun.
yeah, next time we're gonna do the complete opposite of a Sean Baker movie. We're gonna do a Disney movie. A Disney movie that came out when I was in my 20s, so kind of not in the target audience. But I remember a lot of childless adults love this movie, and I kind of liked it at first, but then I thought about it more, and I'm just like, I don't get it. Next time we are going to do Zootopia.